Hey everyone, and welcome to an instructional of how to navigate through our second module. The focus of this second module is going to be on fiction. We're going to be reading stories. We're going to be talking about setting, plot, and conflict. Again, like I mentioned in my announcement, the purpose of this instructional video is to help those of you who really struggled during the first module to access certain things, to upload your diss track, sort of basic things about Blackboard that I think I mistakenly assumed that we were all familiar with, but that it's okay for us to take a step back and remind ourselves of. So this is what my Blackboard page looks like when I sign in. I'm sure yours looks different, maybe fuller because you're taking classes. So you would click on our class and you see something similar to this. You would click on module number 2, and this is where all of the information regarding module 2 is located. So I have a little infographic that talks about conflict, which is again a huge concept for this module. I provide a link to our course blog where you can watch a short clip and get like sort of a general understanding of how fiction is different from poetry. And then I have all of your tasks laid out. So for this module, you're going to be you're going to be listening to 3 podcasts, one about setting, one about conflict, one about plot. You're going to also be watching some short videos, how to build a fictional world, a video about place, a video about storytelling, making a scene, and introduction to structure. Now, just a FYI, it might seem like this is a lot, but in fact, if you look at, and I got the impression from some of your diss tracks that maybe you're not viewing some of this material. If you click on some of this stuff, for example, making a scene, you'll see that this is a short. I mean, I consider it short, considering some of the other stuff that you're reading. A short essay about place. So that's one thing that you're reading. If you click on how to build a fictional world, you'll come to this page, a 5-minute video about building a fictional world. So again, a little bit about setting. If you click on storytelling, you'll come to this Khan Academy, excuse me, Khan Academy tutorial about story and like what a story involves. Again, all of this is important stuff as you're going to develop your own stories. I'm not asking you to do any of the activities, though you're more than welcome to try. I'm just asking you to interact. So this is a short 2-minute video. Another short video, people talking about their favorite stories, what a story involves. It's very like interactive and meant to be interesting and not sort of super dry and dense. I spent a lot of time finding material that I felt was both really informative and interesting. So it's worthwhile to actually interact with them. And in fact, if you don't interact with them, it shows in your reading group discussion and your creative pieces. So ultimately, you lose points. So just a reminder on that. Okay, so again, I have the tasks here, and then I have all the links to all of the readings that I'm meant to do here. So I would click on them, right, and then I would listen, I would watch, I would read, and then I also have the readings, the creative pieces, right? So the creative pieces for this module are 3 short stories. Again, click, and they should download automatically onto your PC or your laptop or your whatever you're using. So that's part 1 of what you're expected to do for this module. After you've done that, I recommend you get to the instructionals, because for this module, you're expected to complete 3 instructionals. all of us did a really good job with the instructional, so I'm not going to really spend too much time explaining anything specifically. I just want to remind you that when you're creating your instructionals, you're not obligated to do like a general, here's what setting is. You can talk specifically about something you're interested in with setting. So if you, after you've watched How to Build a Fictional World and listened to the podcast about setting, want to talk about how to create a realistic sci-fi world, or how to create a realistic historical world, like if you're creating a story that is about a thing that actually happened, that's something that you can absolutely do. So don't feel like you have to just repeat sort of everything you've heard um, in the readings and the podcasts. Then you're also going to be creating an instructional for conflict. And if you remember, oops, nope. If you remember, we have this infographic here, which is about conflict. I provided this because this is an example of an instructional. This is what your instructional could look like as well. Obviously not this, because this has already been done, but the idea here that I'm trying to stress is these instructionals are just meant to be like cool, interesting ways for you to share information about a craft element. So if you want to do a diagram like this about some aspect of conflict you're interested in, by all means, go for it. Then you're creating an instructional for plot. Plot is an interesting craft element. It can include a lot of different things. One interesting thing that to consider is the difference between scene work and backstory versus exposition. Another thing to consider is the difference between plot and story. Plot is really about the ordering of events in your story. So it's interesting to think about, like, why do we order our stories in certain ways? What would change if we reimagined the typical once upon a time model and instead started from the very end? So whatever interests you with plot, you're going to create an instructional for that. So I recommend, because this module ends March 14th, I recommend that you take this next week, maybe the next 10 days, and really engage with the craft readings and videos and create those instructionals, because some of you realize those instructionals are fun, but take a lot of thinking and creativity. So give yourself time to do that. Once you've completed that, you are going to engage in the reading group discussion. Now, a little bit about the reading group discussion. The way that I access the reading group discussion is by clicking on this link, reading group discussion, finding the group that I'm a part of. And so, for example, if I click on Noelle's group, I would see excuse me, I would see this. Actually, I think I would see this. And wait, if I'm being really honest, I apologize. What I would really see is this. Great. Okay, so as a reminder, when you are looking at this screen, way at the bottom, there are these things called group tools: collaborate, file exchange, group blog, group discussion board, group journal, group task, group wiki, send email. Send email is a way that you can email all of your group members. Collaborate is that video option that I told you all about for having a conversation. Blog is if you want to create a group blog to have your conversation. And discussion board is what I've sort of already organized for you just to be helpful, but you're not obligated to use the discussion board. But just so you see, this group used the discussion board to have their discussion, and the way that they did it is they created a thread titled Group 2 Discussion. You have a leader who sort of says, hey, this is where we should start our conversation. Folks talk about things that they noticed about certain diss tracks. Then we have folks responding to their group mates, talking about context, talking about imagery, talking about alliteration, all of the craft elements that are mentioned in the first module. So that's an example of how you can engage in a reading group discussion. And I'm only saying this because disappointingly enough, I think 15 people received credit for the reading group discussion, but 10 people did not, which, I mean, that's a large amount of people that lost out on 6 points, 6% of your grade. So you can use that model. The other option you have is collaborate. And I just want to show you what collaborate involves because I think maybe some of us are thinking it's super complicated and it's not. You click on collaborate. There's this thing called group room. So you would organize with your group mates when you want to meet. You would click on join room all at the same time. You're made aware that you're joining. Unfortunately, it's just me right now, but in your case, it might be all of you, right? This audio means that you can share audio with each other. Video means you can all see each other. You click on this icon and you can record your session. You click on this icon and you can chat with each other. You click on share content and you can share your computer screens with each other. So there's a lot you can do, but the big thing is this start recording. You start recording and then you save what you save what you actually talked about, and then that recording becomes a file that you can just email to me as proof of your reading group discussion. So I mention this again because in the past, successful reading groups have actually just organized amongst each other 2 solid 30-minute blocks where they talk to each other about the readings using Collaborate. They record it and they send it my way, and then it's done. They don't have to worry about it. So that's one option. The other option is using something called Google Hangout. So if you all have Gmail, you add each other to your contacts. You would click on one person, for example, and click on the video function, and then you would start a Google Hangout by adding people and then talking. And you can also record a Google Hangout. I'm not going to do it here, but I just want to show you. All you have to do is type in recording Google Hangout, and there's an instruction on how to do that. So all of us, if we're taking an online class, should be able to do that amount of troubleshooting. So I'm going to expect, if you're interested in that, that you will do your due diligence. So that's another example of what you can do for the reading group discussion. And finally, you can also just talk about the readings via email, and then just attach all of the emails in a file and send it my way. So that's about the reading group discussion. Also, just a reminder, for the reading group discussion, the focus is on the creative pieces that you've read. So for this module, you're talking with your group mates about these 3 short stories. In an effort to be more helpful, because I think since for some of us this is our first online class, for some of us it's our first sort of English class, I have provided some guiding questions that I hope will help you generate a conversation with your group mates. I'll attach it to this announcement. So compare and contrast the role of place in Miss Leanne and Things They Carried. What is the conflict in A Good Man is Hard to Find? How is the conflict resolved? Outline the series of events in one of the stories. Now change the order of events. How does the story change? Write a diss poem from the perspective of a character in any of these short stories. Share reasons why you wrote certain lines with your group mates. So those are some guiding questions, so you don't feel like you're just sort of talking about things at random. But you'll see that these questions are focusing on the stories, but they have an interest in the craft elements that we're learning about. Okay, after you've completed the reading group discussion, then the final thing that you're expected to do is submit a 1 to 2 page double-spaced scene from a short story. And a lot of you struggled with how to upload this, like the diss track. And so I just want to show you, you would click on scene and you have all the information about how this assignment is being graded, and you would find your file. Excuse me, I'm still not doing so well. And you would attach it and submit. That's how you would submit your scene. Once you've done all of these things, you have completed the second module. And again, the second module is going to end March 14th, but you need to make sure that you plan accordingly so you're not doing everything last minute. All right, so for the sake of my voice, I'm going to end here. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to email.